So, Scott, you've just written up a report on some research we did at ActualTech Media about installed technologies. Now, when you were going through this, what was the most interesting thing you found?
Well, Keith, you've been in this industry a long time. Do you remember back when you were running Virtualization and Cloud Review magazine and AWS and Azure were in their very early stages?
Yes, the olden days, right, when we still rode on horseback and went outside to outhouses and things like that. You mean that era?
Yeah.
No.
That's the time. Well, back then, I also remember writing a lot of pieces about how to get started with the cloud. And the answer at the time was storage, storage, storage. So using AWS S3 or Azure storage services to put your files up in the cloud. And then you could retire or repurpose file servers and, you'd stop people from having, not backed up files on their laptops. Well, it turns out that original low hanging fruit of a use case is still solid. Of all the services that people use from AWS, Azure, and Google, storage is number one on every platform, every one. On Google Cloud, it's far and away the top service. Same for AWS. For Microsoft, it's a little closer to some of the other services, but it's still number one. Storage is king on the cloud.
So what you're saying then, basically, Scott, is the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? I mean, that's pretty amazing. So we've just released this survey of nearly 1,400 IT professionals on their installed technologies. So obviously, most of the report is cloud, but the survey does break out what specific services people are using. Can you tell us a little more about what the data showed?
Sure. Yeah. Well, unsurprisingly, it is, storage related services are the top service on all three of the major platforms, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Similarly unsurprising, compute related services come in second on AWS and Google Cloud. The prominence of those two really validates the lore of those early Amazon two pizza box meetings about, delivering the essential components that people need to build applications in the cloud. The components they needed back then are the same ones now. What's interesting in the survey is that AI services aren't taking off yet, which makes sense when you think about it. AI is responsible for huge spending and build outs in the cloud. A lot of the spending by those mega vendors is adding AI capacity, but there's not much user usage, that we would pick up in this survey where they're subscribing to a specific service from, like, say, Google or Amazon. Of course, that doesn't account for how much other providers like, say, OpenAI are using AWS or Azure on their back end. So the IT pros and managers that we surveyed are probably using AI a fair amount, but they're spending with others before it arrives in Microsoft or Amazon's pocket.
I think it is fair to say that even though the adoption of AI may be slow now, it's not going to stay that way. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Something to watch, and cannot wait to read the report. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Keith.